The bulk of the money stolen from Africa and other developing countries is warehoused in the West, in Western banks and other financial institutions. Yet these countries turn around to accuse victim countries as very corrupt. Take Switzerland, for instance. Switzerland, for years, maintained secret accounts. And all the dictators that looted the wealth of their country had accounts in Switzerland.
Safe haven.
Safe havens. And you have Transparency International. They are grace countries every year. Switzerland is never one of the most corrupt countries. It is those countries whose wealth has been looted, right, that are said to be fantastically corrupt. Not the UK or London that is said to be the center of money laundering in the world. Western countries are very reluctant because they are beneficiaries of corruption. They are beneficiaries of corruption.
Welcome to Wake Up Black. Educate and enlighten.
The government in America and the president will breach any law in order to win Israel, and of course the Israelis in America. But that again confirms the hypocrisy and the inconsistency of the United States of America when it comes to human rights. They choose which countries to send weapons to, regardless of your human rights record, including monarchical regimes. The United States of America is the closest friend of
Saudi Arabia
and some of the monarchical regimes in the Middle East. Whereas Cuba is virtually the only country in Latin America that has the best, respect for human rights. Cuba has a higher health standard than America.
They even send their medical doctors
of course, around the world, throughout the world.
And teachers.
Even Italy, But when it comes to human rights, America will point accusing fingers at Cuba. Whereas there's no way America can prove to the world that it has better human rights standard than Cuba or even Nigeria. So, but America pretends. It still maintains, practices torture outside its own shores.
There's Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, we go and torture people in Guantanamo Bay. So, and that is a country, you can go and invade other countries, like Afghanistan, Iraq. Like Iraq, like Libya, and those countries have never known peace since America unleashed violence on them. So, for the whole world now, it has been shown that the United States of America is a leading violator of human rights. It's been proved over and over again. Until recently, heads of state were killed on the street. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the killing of Gaddafi, of Patrice Lumumba, of Sankara, of Murtala Mohammed, and so on and so forth. That's in Africa. Not to talk of Allende of Chile. And so on and so forth.
CIA engineers, sponsored coups.
Of course. So that's what America does. Now, it talks of regime change now, that led to the killing of Gaddafi, the killing of Saddam Hussein. And the United States of America does not have a better human rights record than any of these regimes.
Mr. Femi Falana, I'm happy you mentioned the killing of Gaddafi, because in other fora you've said that one of the effects of that is of the blowback of killing Gaddafi was the proliferation of weapons that moved south, and then insurgencies in the Sahel region. We've seen the French military. There's been a great anti-French sentiment in West Africa. We've seen a series of coups, and people are beginning to look beyond a multipolar world that is not dictated by America. What do you make of this new changing environment, especially in the West Africa region?
Apart from the crisis in the Sahelian region, Libya itself has almost 6 factions claiming, the leadership of that country. And that is part of the crisis caused by the West. Libya under Gaddafi, in spite of his human rights record, had the best welfare policy in Africa. Today, that country has been reduced to rubble because of oil politics. America wanted to control oil, the oil of Libya and other resources. Now, when trouble in West Africa, and unless the ECOWAS can restore the ECOMOG and have it on a permanent basis to fight the terrorists in the Sahelian region, this West Africa will not know peace.
And
but the West prefer to send foreign troops to this country. Happily, Africans are rejecting foreign troops. And for me, their days are numbered in Africa. Africans will have to defend themselves. Africans will have to protect the continent. Again, as I said, South Africa is showing the way. It is hoped that countries like Nigeria, right, Ghana and others, will queue behind South Africa or will support, declare solidarity with South Africa in this major onslaught against gangsterism in Palestine, as we're all witnessing now.
Now, Mr. Falana, you're not just a leading human rights activist, you're also an anti-corruption campaigner. Corruption has been a big problem in Nigeria for many decades now. In 2016, in a conversation with Queen Elizabeth II, the then Prime Minister David Cameron of the United Kingdom described Nigeria as fantastically corrupt. In the past, you've indicted Western governments for being complicit in the corruption by warehousing stolen funds. Could you shed more light on this?
The bulk of the money stolen from Africa and other developing countries is warehoused in the West, in Western banks and other financial institutions. Yet these countries turn around to accuse victim countries as very corrupt. Take Switzerland, for instance. Switzerland, for years, maintained secret accounts. And all the dictators that looted the wealth of their country had accounts in Switzerland.
Safe haven.
Safe havens. And you have Transparency International that grace countries every year. Switzerland is never one of the most corrupt countries. It is those countries whose wealth has been looted, right, that are said to be fantastically corrupt. Not the UK or London that is said to be the center of money laundering in the world. Again, this is part of the hypocrisy. And all we are saying, we are demanding for the establishment of an international criminal court against corruption. Western countries are very reluctant because they are beneficiaries of corruption. They are beneficiaries of corruption.
Now, staying on the subject of stolen funds, Mr. Falana, you raised concerns in the past regarding the World Bank's supervision of spending returned assets. What legal recourse or alternatives might the Nigerian government have if it believes conditions imposed are unreasonable or if it seeks greater control of repatriated funds? And I'm talking about things like the Abacha loot, where they will police you on how you will spend your money, this is what you need to do, and all of that. They set conditions before some of this.
It's actually an insult to our sovereignty for criminals in the international arena to dictate how we should spend money recovered from them. After they have taken part of the money, under the pretext of paying lawyers, whatever is left, you are then given conditions. And unfortunately, because the ruling regimes here also lack integrity, so it's difficult for them to challenge, the international criminal forces. But I think very soon, Africa will be able to ask for account from local leaders and their international collaborators. But what is important is not for us to join the West and the ruling class here to give the impression that corruption is a problem. Corruption itself is a manifestation of the operation of a peripheral capitalist system. Yeah. Because corruption is a component part of capitalism.
Yes.
It's a component part. And so when people say, oh, our country is corrupt, oh, because of corruption, there's no development. No. Today, it is the ruthless implementation of neoliberal policies dictated by the IMF and World Bank that can be said to be at the root of the crisis of underdevelopment in Africa.
The main trends of human rights abuses in Africa, and who are the main perpetrators?
The main perpetrators are the government and international finance capital. We cannot afford to limit ourselves to political and civil rights. The most fundamental aspect of human rights can be said to be socioeconomic rights. The right to employment, right to health, right to food, right to a safe environment, which are not taken seriously here. And so for me, and the governments in Africa are responsible for the underdevelopment of the continent by allowing the World Bank and IMF to dictate the way the economy should be run. If you take Nigeria, for instance, under the Constitution, the only body known, the only body allowed to advise the president are members of the National Economic Council, headed by the Vice President. But that body is not taken seriously. On the contrary, the IMF and World Bank dictate how the economy of Nigeria should be run. And we have said repeatedly, and I have asked some Nigerians that believe in these institutions to name one country
that has
developed on the basis of the prescriptions of the Bretton Woods institutions.
Now, Mr. Falana, most African countries are 50 years post-independence. I mean, in 2024, it's still sad that we're talking about this paternalistic relationship that Africa has with its colonial powers and the West. I mean, looking at Bretton Woods institutions, the dictating financial policies and economic policies for Africans. And one of the most scandalous examples of this paternalism was when the EU policy chief, Joseph Borrell, he said Europe is a garden. We're not, we're saying the rest of the world is a jungle, and that they're the gardeners to take care of this garden. What does that statement tell you about the West's attitude towards international relations and how it sees the rest of the world? And what can we as a continent do to, show some pride and exert sovereignty?
Well, happily, progressive forces in Africa are fighting back. We're fighting local regimes that behave so slavishly to the West.
They're kowtow to the West, yes.
Yeah, and so Africa is also setting up institutions apart from the African Union, ECOWAS, East African Community, and so on and so forth. You also have the trade, the Continental Trade
Free trade agreement.
Free trade agreement now, which in a few years' time, should be able to take control.
There's also BRICS.
Take control of the economy of the continent. A country like Nigeria is still very, very reluctant to join BRICS because, again, we are pretending to be more Catholic than the Pope. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, and others.
Iran.
I don't know why, and I don't know why Nigeria is still very reluctant to join a movement that will allow you to spend your own currency instead of chasing dollars or looking for dollars all over the place. So again, Nigeria has said it's going to join the BRICS in 2 years' time. Why not today? Why wait for 2 years? So, but the pressure is on. We're mounting pressure on the government to protect the interests of Nigeria by joining organizations like BRICS.